Constantine, a Hellblazer podcast.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Hell Talk. And of course, as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Hoku.
Howdy, howdy.
And today we are covering the very end, the last story arc, plus a couple one-shots of the Paul Jenkins run. Yay.
We made it. We made it.
We're officially through the third chunk of Hellblazer. Which it seems weird, like when you think about at least when I think of a Hellblazer, I'm thinking like 300 issues. That's so daunting. But then when you break it up into these chunks, it's like, oh, that's not too bad. It's like there's Jamie Delano, Garth Ennis, Paul Jenkins, Warren Ellis, Brian Azzarello, Mike Carey, Denise Mina, and Peter Milligan. There's only 8 creators that were on the series for 300 issues. That's fucking crazy.
That's like a very sparse, like selection. I would have imagined for 300 there would be 10 or more. You have to figure.
At least, yeah, yeah. Especially for a comic nowadays, like you never get like people, that last longer than like 12 issues usually. So
right, because people just jump around all the time.
Yeah, and also like the company will be like, we're going a different way, or we're rebooting this or that, and we want to get fresh writers on. So, or they just reboot the whole line every 12 issues, which was a thing for a while. Very annoying. I can't. I hate that you don't get any really long runs nowadays. But that's changing actually, because like I'm reading the Poison Ivy run that's going on right now, and that's on issue 26 or something like that. So they're going strong. I'm hoping it goes for at least 36 or 40 issues, something like that would be nice.
Oh, nice. Call back to the golden days.
Exactly. And I really like it when a writer stays on for a long time because they get to like complete their vision.
It just seems like maybe in the time of like quick bites that they just don't trust that someone has the the vision or the stamina to last that long. They're like, here, you get 6 issues and you get, maybe like 12 issues, or, here's just 2 issues for you or something. Because they figure like if someone starts to get fatigued or maybe they lose interest and they want to move on. So they just don't trust that someone will stick with it. And so these they bring in new creators all the time just to keep things fresh and new and make sure nobody gets fatigued,
That would be a generous explanation, I think, towards the publisher on that. I think it's basically like the publisher assuming no one likes long arcs anymore, and then them making that a mandate for like the last 6 years of like no one stays on a title for a long time. And also like the longer someone's on a title, the kind of like the more power they have if people like it, So like if something's selling really well, now that writer can demand more money or like they want a bigger project, or they can ask something more of the company. So I feel like that's what they don't want more than anything, is they don't want like the creators having.
Okay. I suppose I was thinking of it from like the human interest point of view, not the machine money point of view.
Well, that's the only reason why I think that is because like, there's no other reason why you wouldn't want like, well, this creator's doing a great job. Let's get him off that fucking book. Like, let's cancel the book and restart at 1, like it's just constant annoyingness for not only the writer, I would imagine, or the artists and creators, but like the fans as well. For me, I fucking hate it because like when people are like, oh, you should read the Chip Zdarsky's Daredevil run, I'm like, okay, where do I start with that? They're like, well, it's on volume 4 and they changed the name of the title halfway through at volume 3. So like now it's called Elektra or Daredevil / Elektra or something, but originally it was just called Daredevil, and it's technically volume 6, but like, you know, it's just so like convoluted. Like,
Convoluted.
yeah, it's like it's so much
Dang.
easier when you're just like, oh, you should read this Batman story, and they're like, what is it? Like, where, how do I find it? It's like, oh, it's either this trade that's named this, like Batman Hush, which is
Right.
in the Batman run. That was Batman issues, you know, was it 608 through 618? Like, there's no reason why you need to have anything other than the main the main count or whatever, right? You can just put them in chunks of trades and name them whatever you want. But yeah, like they don't like that. They don't.
Mm, pity.
I think number ones would sell, right? So they're like, every 12 issues we're going to reboot to a number one. People are going to buy that one. Then we'll do 12 issues where the sales get progressively worse and worse and worse, and then we reboot it again. But anyway, this is not the comic book bitching podcast. This is the Hell Talk podcast, god damn it, where we discuss Hellblazer. Yeah, this was an interesting section. I want to know your thoughts as a whole on the you know, the whole run overall, but we'll get to that at the end. But this section, it was kind of hard to break up for me because the last one, or the one before, the Hell Talk before this one was like, or the two Hell Talks before was a lot of one shots, and then I was like, well, let's just do the ones that are kind of you know, one singular story, which was the King Arthur storyline, and then there was a couple more one shots or two shots, and I'm like, I don't want to have a bunch of one shots at the end of that. So I broke this up into, there's 3 one shots, and then we get the final like 2 arcs, which are kind of the same arc. But yeah, so with that, the first 3 issues are, like I said, one shots. What did you think of them overall as one shots?
I thought they were weird, but still fun stories. So it was kind of nice to have sort of 3 separate ideas that have beginnings, middles, and ends that don't involve, like, I mean, they do involve other people and other things, but it's still sort of a contained story. And to have 3 in a row was kind of nice. It was a nice change.
Yeah, I liked it as well. I think it's fun when they actually have like hits on the continuity, like they matter. Like, I think obviously 118, which is the birth issue of Rich and Michelle's daughter, I was like, oh, this one matters, right? And also, like, it's the death of Straff's mom, which we've seen previously. You know, she was always like having strokes or whatever, but or falling down and couldn't get up. But like this one, I thought I wish. I mean, he probably had maybe other ideas for this, or maybe he's seeding for another writer after him. But like, this could have gone a certain way with the whole, like, the baby's being born, the mom's dying, then at the end, grandma feels, or like he smells grandma's perfume. But they're like, it's pretty ambiguous. What did you think of that? What, the tandem story, I guess, overall, and then like the ambiguous ending?
Well, I totally think that she took that baby soul, like 100%. That is, yeah, that is exactly what I was thinking. As soon as they started showing like the matching heartbeats and, you know, times winding down, I was like, oh, she's looking for a new vessel. I don't know how. I don't know how she has the power to do this.
Yeah, she's not magical or anything.
Like, maybe it's just sheer force of will, like, I will not die, you know, and then just somehow being able to match not only with the baby from far away, but then as she's like, oh, I'm dying, or like, here comes another heart attack, and then quick, take me to the hospital so that I can be close enough to, you know, jump into this fresh new baby body. It was no, I dig it. I dig it. I hope they do something with it.
Yeah, I mean, as a Hellblazer fan, I like the sinister story ending potential. But also, I mean, it does have, like, it could just mean like, oh, like when the old dies, the new comes, and then like it's just the memory of grandma, you know. But
The scent could be nostalgia.
yeah, so like you could read it like that, and because they never, you know, Jenkins doesn't like go off of the story at all. You know, you don't know. He doesn't expand it, so they just
Yeah,
leave
you
it
don't get
like
the
that.
baby looking at the camera like, it's me now, or something, you know, like.
Right? No one says like, "Wow, that baby really looks like my mom" or something, you know.
Yeah. Let's name her whatever the mom's name is.
Right. Probably a good idea. But but yeah, I like that as well. But I wish there was like I wish he had one more arc that he could have done in between, the one shots and the final arc that maybe hinted at something that John had to fix with the baby or whatever. That would have been interesting. But I guess it didn't need to be there. It was just like, okay. Um, was that your favorite of the three?
Not no, actually. My favorite was the next one.
Really? That's interesting. Because it has like no bearing on anything. It's literally like just a one shot that is just John trying to save her fish or replace her fish. And then like I like the whole plot of it where it's like, oh, all these things happen at the same time in time, and bad things are going to reoccur in the same ways as they did before, specifically these accidents.
I mean, I don't know. Like it's hard to rank these three because I think they're all really great ideas. I would put them like I couldn't really have like a one, two, three necessarily. I'd have like a one, and then they'd all kind of share that same one space.
Oh, okay.
But of the three, I kind of liked the nihilism of that story of just like these horrible things happen, and maybe there's not even really anything mystical about it, but just like these catastrophes all happen all throughout time, all claiming lives and souls, and it's almost like a snowball effect of it just continues going. And even John is like, I literally can't do anything to stop it. I have to watch this play out, whether it's going to happen tomorrow, whether it's going to happen, years from now. He's in that moment and he feels that. And I don't know, something about that sort of uh darkness to it, that sort of inevitability was really, I love tragedies. So it's a really good tragic story. So I dug it.
That's awesome. You're talking me into liking it more. I thought it was like weird at first, just kind of like it didn't have any, bearing on anything else. But one thing I did like about it, I did like the whole, like, all of these events are happening at the same time because they're just related through time kind of idea, which to me is very Watchmen. It's very Dr. Manhattan, where he's like, I'm sitting on a bench, I'm in this place, I'm on Mars, and they're all happening in his timeline at the same time.
Back and forth through time. It's all like the same moment. Every moment is as important as the one before or after it because they all happen simultaneously.
Or not as important. Nothing means anything.
Yes, full tragic.
Yeah, it gave me that feel, which is cool, but it gave it in a not like a nod to Watchmen or anything. He never once was he acting like this is supposed to be some like profound original idea, but also I'm not like Alan Moore or something, none of that. So
Yeah.
I like that. I like that it was a new take. It was like a different take on the same concept as like Dr. Manhattan. Yeah, you know what? You made me like that issue more just talking about it.
See, it's really hard to rank these three. They're all great in their own way, and it's like I really like, that darkness of the first one with the baby, and you don't know, but if you have that sort of a mind, you're like, oh yeah, totally, like that horrible thing just happened. And then with this episode or issue, it's it's the inevitability of destruction, and that's just so tragic. And then the next one is sort of this fun romp with us going with John on this crazy like romp of his, which is I love the wall breaking of that story. I think it's so much fun to be sort of like looping arms with him and wandering down the yellow brick road to see what's at the end or something. So that one was also super fun, and I loved that one too.
Yeah, I love that issue. It's just super interesting the way that, like, one, it's cool that they have all the creators in the bar like hanging out.
Yes. Oh, I loved that when you were like, oh, and there's this guy and this guy. I would see, and it's funny because I wouldn't know who they are. I don't know what they look like. I've never like looked them up and been like, oh, so that's what that guy looks like. I only know the name, vaguely. So I'm actually glad that you were able to give us that sort of insider. Oh, by the way, that's him. That's him. Hey, there's Alan Moore, the hermit over there by the fireplace, being all lonesome and stuff.
Yeah,
Like,
he was just in shadow. He didn't actually get a a
oh,
full
really?
figure. Yeah, the way that they drew him, he's just in shadow. You just see a crazy man with a beard, shape.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah, that's enough to know it's him.
Yeah, and John says like that's the guy who created me and made me hang out with that cabbage. So he's talking about Swamp Thing.
He's probably the only one I would recognize because he's the one I've actually seen like pictures of or like as a person. So
Yeah, some of those I did not know who they were.
oh, really?
I had to look it up in like Wikipedia. I'm like, who are these people? Because I don't know what Paul Jenkins looks like. It's not like he's got like pictures all over the place. But like Sean Phillips, I do know what he looks like because he's got pretty good social media presence and he takes pictures
cool.
of like himself with his artwork and whatnot. And so I'm like, oh, I know exactly what he looks like, which is why, if you remember a while ago, I was like, in this run, I was like, it's funny because John's face gets more and more like Sean Phillips every time he draws him because he is his own model.
Oh, yeah. I remember you mentioned that.
If he's like, oh, I need to show John taking a smoke at this angle, he'll just do it himself, take a picture, and then just by osmosis, eventually, like some of his own features of his face kind of become part of John a little bit.
That is so funny.
And you can actually see it, like he draws himself pretty good in this. So
Practically his twin.
yeah, exactly. But then some of the other people, like I didn't know who, they had like, I think they had the editor in there. And I think, cause like I think Paul Jenkins or Garth Ennis was asking for money. Like, hey, when are we getting paid?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I thought that was funny because that's pretty spot on for comics industry stuff. The thing I love about that issue as well is like, John takes us on the journey and everybody that we meet is like, the second John leaves, they're like, quick, before he returns. Like you have to get away from this man. He's crazy. And then John returns and he's like, ha ha ha, I was joking. And then you're like, wait, were you? Because we know all of John's friends die. So were you joking or was it? So yeah, I appreciate the way everybody was acting, and then you kind of didn't know if they were joking or not by the end of it. But that's kind of the fun, right? That's like the whole thing with John is bad things happen, but it's all kind of part of the story, the fun story. And yeah, that issue was fun to me.
Yeah, it made me feel like it was like a video game. Like, you're just sort of getting like the walkthrough and he's like the lead NPC who's just like, hey, come along. We're going to go on this little adventure together. And yeah, just the way it's described, it's almost like a choose your own adventure, except he's making the choices for you. That second person view of the story, is really, really fun. And brings me back to like video games, old stories, and almost like even a TV show would be really fun to try and do that. So
yeah, that would be like a cool episode of a TV show where you're like, hey, come here, and you're talking to like the watcher or whatever, So,
yeah,
yeah, that would be super fun. And yeah, it very much felt like some of those older video games, especially the ones that had like video cutscenes. From the 90s and stuff where you're like, oh, I guess.
And they're talking to you and they're like, hey, come on, we got to go over here. Like, quick, open this door. And then, you have to like, that's how they teach you how to do all the moves and stuff of like what button does what to like sort of get into the zone of it. Yeah, I loved that feeling. So yeah, all three of these were, bangers. Totally great stories.
Yeah, I liked them as well. Like I said, now you've made me like the second one even more. Because that was my like, oh, that one's okay compared to the other two. But now you've got me on board. They're all equally good, just different stories in themselves.
I would say the double issue does get a smidge higher just because it had more space to really take you on a full adventure. So if I really, really had to rank them, they'd all be in like the number one spot, but that one would have just a little more space on the platform, I think. And the other two would sort of be on the edges, like slightly pushed off to the side, and that one's solidly in the middle. Um, you know, three of them squished together in the number one spot. But yeah, I think they're all really great stories.
Yeah, and the only bad thing about it is that that's Sean Phillips' last issue. So after him, or after 120, and we get like the final story arc, I'm calling the last 8 issues one story arc because they do tie together, even though they're two kind of separate arcs in themselves.
They're part 1 and part 2, really.
Yeah, for real. And so, nothing against Warren. What's his name? Warren Fleece, I think. But he's not. I don't like him as much as Sean Phillips.
The interiors didn't quite hold up, I take it.
I think it was just like it just wasn't as good storytelling as Sean Phillips was at that time. Especially since he'd been doing it for almost 40 issues. It seemed like they had a rhythm. He could really get across all the ideas that Paul Jenkins was doing well. And not for nothing, but I think some of the confusion I had in the recordings that you probably heard with the storyline of the last arcs were, I think, due to some of the art, like where just either the panels didn't flow right or something was missing and I was having trouble putting it all together in my head.
Okay. So like maybe the arrangement of it wasn't up to par coming from someone who was almost an expert at it, especially going out on a big double issue with like the whole story sort of flowing around us.
Yeah.
And then having to jump into almost a whole new version of it where maybe he didn't quite get his flow right off the bat.
Yeah, and also because it's like the last arc, it's like this is what it's leaving you with, and it's not the guy who's started it and everything. So I was like, oh, come on. But yeah, I feel like because Paul Jenkins is the same writer, right? So it should have the story should make sense. Even like I remember doing the Juker Jana stuff, in Australia that he wrote, and I was like, this is weird. But I'm following it with the art. The only time I was a little confused in that one was like, oh, is this the dragon or is this the fish or whatever? Like, oh, this is
right.
not. This
where
is
they
not,
didn't specify that it wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't it.
Yeah, and so, but that's I think it was supposed to leave you on a cliffhanger kind of thing on purpose. But yeah, I felt like something was off with the art. Storytelling wise on this big arc, these part 1 and part 2 arcs, because it was confusing to me.
I would imagine that it is probably hard to go from someone you've worked very close with for a long time to someone new that you have to build a whole new relationship with. And it's possible maybe they weren't jiving, like they were still trying to figure out each other with this double arc. So, it's possible this was just getting to know each other and him working with a new style. And, maybe the panel layouts weren't exactly the way, he has an interpretation of it versus what, somebody else might have had an interpretation of it. So I could see it being a rocky start, a weird place to do a rocky start as opposed to the beginning of a new, a whole new arc, a continuation of something that started earlier. It is kind of weird to sort of have a new person jump in and be forced to end it on such a big note. So yeah, I get what you're saying. And I would chalk it up to maybe like, first date jitters.
Yeah, probably. And, just maybe he's not at the time wasn't as strong of a storyteller as Sean Phillips was with the paneling and all that stuff. But, either way, I do think the story itself lends itself to confusion somewhat, or at least like what's happening or like what's going on. Like, why are we focusing on this couple or whatever? Because like you have 2 stories going on at once in this first arc. You have the stuff with Gavin and Ellie, and then you have the stuff with Danny and John and her family. and they don't seem connected at all. Other than John appears in Gavin's like memory sometimes. And also like I didn't get the first time. I don't know if I said this or not when I was doing it, when I read it to y'all, but the like it is very clear because I reread these before we did this to make sure I like remembered everything. And it was very clear on this reading that like she is manipulating his memories so that he remembers John fucking him over. He actually did not do any of that stuff bad. Like, I don't know if he was drunk. I can't remember if that was like he definitely wasn't as drunk as they made him seem later on in his memories. Because of the first time that she's like, you remember what happened? And he's like, I mean, there was like, we saw John, it was a pretty normal thing. Then we left, then we got in the car accident. And she's like, no, don't you remember John did this or that? And you don't know because you don't know that who it is. You don't know it's Ellie pretending to be his dead girlfriend. At this time in the first 4 issues. So I just thought like, oh no, she's jogging his memory as his actual ghost of his girlfriend. The first time I read it. And then once I realized it was Ellie, it had already been enough time, or whenever they reveal that, it had been enough time that I forgot how much she had manipulated him at the beginning. And then to where like, oh, now, yeah, Ellie's just reminding him of everything that actually happened. Or maybe the last stuff was her manipulating him to a full extent. Did you get that? Did you understand that like she was really manipulating him the whole time?
I sort of figured it that way. I didn't know why. Like, I thought, okay, maybe she's a vengeful ghost and she wanted to get back at John. I mean, I didn't understand her motivation totally. Like, why is she getting back at John? Why is she, changing his memories in this way to make John look like he's either, straight up asshole or like a lecher or I did kind of pick that up because as soon as he was like, I remember like exactly how it happened. And she's like, oh no, the shirt, you misremember the shirt. And if that seemed to be her in, where it was like, if you misremember the shirt, what else have you misremembered? Oh, you misremembered this. Actually, and then you misremembered it this way. And then, oh, actually, you know what? No, it's even worse. You forgot about this part. So I kind of picked up as soon as she was talking about the shirt that she was doing something, but I still don't know why she was doing it. And I didn't know like what the end game was supposed to be. I mean, it kind of seemed like she was leading him to do something to John, but yeah, without knowing the underlying motivation, it was weird. And the way it's described, you could take it as maybe these are real things that he actually is just suppressing.
Yeah, that's what I thought because everything until a certain point, everything is something he could have remembered wrong. Until the part I noticed it for sure was when he was like, oh yeah, now I remember that John spiked our drinks or my drink with something that made me fucked up. And then I was like, but in the panel, he's off playing pool, not looking at his drinks. So I was like, how would he remember that? Like there was some stuff that didn't make sense.
Yeah. Yeah. That was very obvious at that point.
Yes.
I kind of like, to me, it seemed a little bit suspect when he was quote unquote remembering John, I don't know, being so pushy. And so it didn't feel like a John sort of way that they, that the memories were portraying him. So I was just like, I don't know yeah, John can be an asshole, but I've never seen him be like overly exuberantly like, fuck this, like we're gonna drink till we black out. He's like, he can do that by himself. Totally. But to, be so brash about it seemed a little too easy to make him a villain in that moment. So that was the part where I was just like, this doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like it feels like it's an over exaggeration. And so that's either like a misremembered remembering, like for some reason he's remembering it wrong, or she's pushing him to remember it this way to serve some purpose. So that was the part where I was a little like unsure where it was going, and it seemed like purposefully that she was trying to make John out to be a bad guy. But which is also again a weird contrast to the whole fact that the other part of the story is him off like for doing a planes, trains, and automobiles going somewhere for Thanksgiving thing. So
Yeah, right. And I think just staying on that for a minute with like her manipulation, like he was being weird, but I think because it was a flashback, I was like, it's just like, you know, John was a dickhead more when he was younger. So like maybe that's what they're saying, or maybe he was like that. But he did definitely like I think he talks about like, oh, look at the tits on her or whatever, you know, kind of thing. Like, and that's something John would not do now, especially around, you know, a mate's girlfriend or whatever. So, yeah, like, but I thought, oh, you know, this is in the past, so we don't get a date of like how long ago that was necessarily. So it could have been, you know, when John was still a dickhead in his younger days. Obviously, he wasn't super young, but
yeah, pre-reconjoined twins, maybe, John.
yeah, maybe something like that. And that's also part of the not problem, but like, you know, so one of the conceits you have to give to a new writer is like they're just going to interject something that you've never heard or seen into the past, and you're like, when did that happen? Was that before or after, you know, all the stuff with Papa Midnight? And you know, like,
Yeah.
you know, you just kind of have to go with it at a certain point, like, okay, that happened sometime in the last 5 years.
Right. You're making John's timeline. It's just like, okay, question mark where this event is happening. I think it could be happening somewhere in this era of John.
So yeah, I think now this time reading it through, knowing that was Ellie, I picked up on every little manipulation that she was doing. But the first time I read it, and even when I was reading it to you guys, I'm like, I'm not sure who this is or what's going on, because I read the story arcs and then do the podcast. So I don't think until like the last issue, maybe I had then moved on and read the next story arc, or the part 2 of this story arc. And then I was like, oh, but the first couple issues for sure, I was like, wait, who is this? What's going on? Like, this is odd. And yeah, and so like you said, this is tied in with the story of Danny and John going to Danny's family's home in America for Thanksgiving, I guess, or Christmas. I guess it's Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I think it's Thanksgiving.
And so that was interesting. We talked about this before the podcast, but I think this was here to build up Danny and John's relationship, like to show you how much John is into her, because he has never, even with like Kit, his long lost love or whatever, you know, he never visited her family. And then to fly to America to do such a thing is a big ask as well. So yeah, it was kind of like, I think it was to show John cares about her a lot, which in general with Hellblazer stories, if you're going to build John up in some way, that means he's going to come down pretty hard the other way eventually.
Yeah, he never gets a break. So, you know, as soon as like happy times are coming, you're like, oh, okay, when is the shit going to hit the fan?
Yeah. And so I think the point of that arc, the part 1, is with Danny's family, is not anything to do with the actual arc itself. Like the story inside, at least to me, like there was some stuff that was kind of important. Like, you had to have the First of the Fallen show up somehow and like say that it's not me doing it. Someone else is doing this. And then also, plant the card that he gives John at the end. It's like, hey, if you never ever need me, call me, because that comes into play into the second story, is the part 2 of that story arc. So but the overall, like, oh, people are acting weird because there's like this logo or brand or like consumerism kind of thing happening. Yeah, the it. I was like, all right, like, I guess so. But to me, it didn't do anything for the story or anything. But what did you think of that family arc in general?
I was torn, well, with the whole It branding thing, I was torn between, you know, Stephen King's It and The Stuff. I don't know if you ever saw that old ass movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, The Stuff. Like everyone wants the stuff because it's the stuff.
It's funny, when I was reading it, I kept thinking of that Faith No More song where the guy goes, "What is it?" it's it. What is it? Like, I was like, yeah.
Oh man, I didn't even think of that. That's a good one.
Yeah. Because it's just like it just like there's no it's just supposed to be like an icon for whatever's popular, right? So
if you have it, then you know what it is. And if you don't have it, then you're nothing because you don't have it. You don't know what it is. It's like, what is it? It's it.
well, if you have to ask, you don't have it.
Exactly. So, no, wait, no, I have it. I totally have it. I know exactly what it is.
And yeah, so I don't know, like that story, I get it. Like it's a critique on.
You get it.
Yeah, exactly. It's a critique on like, you know, the city slash consumerism slash like people buying shit they don't need and all that stuff. I thought one of the funny lines I read in that I noticed this time reading through was like when he's talking about it for the first time, he's like, you see these guys on a street corner in a line like around the block for some $200 basketball sneakers, and the guy buying them only has a 3-inch vertical, which I thought was fun because that's like nothing, you know, that's like how high you jump, right? So the guy can only jump 3 inches, but he's buying $200 basketball shoes.
I didn't get that. Thank you.
Yeah.
I know nothing of sports.
That's
I
fine.
don't have it.
You don't know of it.
Exactly.
But yeah, like it's just like, oh yeah, that happens all the time because it's not about basketball, it's about looking cool or whatever and fitting in with the culture or whatever. So yeah, I just, to me, the it stuff was like whatever. And then like it gets pretty crazy with how much her family's affected by it. Personally, if someone pulled a gun, you know, Thanksgiving Day or whatever it was, and shot at a family member in my house, that would be the end of Thanksgiving.
Yeah, they all took that rather well for, I mean, the fact that he actually did pull the trigger and somehow missed. And then they were like, oh, I was like, no, that's where you need help. Don't make me call the cops.
I would totally call the cops on that. You attempted murdered someone.
Yeah. That was pretty messed up. I still don't really understand. I still don't really understand both the how it was affecting them and then how they are cured. Like that to me is still sort of like the synapses are not quite connecting in my brain as far as that goes.
Yeah, I agree. Like they're just affected. I think they showed that they're affected by the art. Like they're wearing, you know, shoes or clothes that have the word "it" on it, right? So it's just like, okay, that's to show that. And then like the guy who's the most affected that we see is the Uncle Fred who's sitting in front of the TV with the commercials all the time. And so like I guess that's part of it, right? That's like the consumerism evil. But it wasn't clear that like Ellie was doing it, and the first of the film was like, it's not me. So I guess maybe this is just a general thing that's happening in America that's making people crazy. And the only way to beat it, this is how I took it, it wasn't explicit, but the only way to beat consumerism and that kind of thinking is by family, meaning we are all, like John uses the grandpa's mind and his memories, and he gives those memories to his kids or shares them with his grandkids that are acting out and have been corrupted by this. And they get cured by just the sharing of the memories of grandpa's life. Meaning like, oh, if you hang out with your family and you're actually like involved with them and know their lives and everything, then that can fight this consumerism thing.
Okay. I don't know.
That's my best guess.
I mean, no, I think it's a really great guess. I just think it's a weird anticlimactic sort of, kumbaya almost ending.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it kind of has to be because you don't want anything to happen to Danny's family at the end, you know? So,
No. But it is also kind of interesting that they still blow off the whole he tried to literally shoot his brother in their house. And you think that's something where like they're gonna point at that bullet hole. Oh, you remember that time at Thanksgiving when you almost shot your brother? Wasn't that a fun thing?
yeah, there's that, and then like the way that art drew it was like the bullet, there's no fucking way it would miss. It was like he shoots.
Point blank, right?
It wasn't point blank. It was like maybe 5 or 6 feet away, but like point blank is like against your body or whatever. So,
Ah,
but like, so he fires, and the bullet in the art is literally like pointed directly at. It's like gigantic in the foreground. In the background, you see, you know, the brother that's going to get shot, and it is directly in the center mass of him. And then you turn the page, and it's like, you know, the bullets goes by. You hear, you know, the crash or whatever, and then he's like looking at his body because he thinks he got shot, and then you see the bullet hole in the window off to the side of him, and I'm like, how did that work? How did that happen? It's like,
maybe the bullet was it, and you can't really kill with it. You only infect people.
I don't think that's what it was. That'd be funny if the bullet actually had like an "it" logo on it as it was being
Right?
fired.
And then that big zoom up that you were talking about, maybe it's carved into the side of it. It.
Yeah, potentially they could have done something like that, but yeah, no, it was just like there's no way this is missing, but it was just for like effect, which I let comics have leeway with that stuff because it's you're trying to create like
Dramatic.
a dramatic moment in a static image, right? So you have to show like it's gonna hit, and then you turn the page. Oh, it didn't. Oh, thank God. So
It missed him by a mile. He was actually aiming like way off to the side. But the angle of it made it look like it was right there.
right. And it was just like, okay, like, yeah, if this was my house, that would be the end of Thanksgiving and the end of me talking to that guy for a long time. I guess maybe because he's supposed to be a teenager. So, like, maybe that's the leeway.
I mean, I can honestly say if I'd pulled a gun out in my house, I probably would have been, severely punished, if not thrown out. But
Thrown into a insane asylum.
yeah, something like that. After a severe beating, but that I probably would deserve it if I pulled a gun on my sibling and literally tried to shoot them. I mean, no matter how crazy, insane you are obsessed with it, I feel like there's probably some other issues going on there. And the fact that all of that can be cured by getting a quick mind meld with grandpa and viewing his life, in your sleep is kind of, but had to figure out some way to get them out of that situation without the family getting hurt and saving them supposedly. So until they become obsessed with the next, it 2.0 or whatever. So.
Yeah. But like I said, originally about this arc is, I think this part one is to build up Danny and John's relationship and then have them go home, which happens in part two. They go home. And then that is where we find out kind of what's been going on with Gavin and this woman who's his, the ghost of his girlfriend, we think. But we find out on the first issue of part two that she is actually Ellie. Ellie is back. She is fucking with Gavin to get him to mess with John and ruin John's life. This is her revenge for John fucking her over, literally, and stealing her essence, I guess. And also, like, now she's on the run from the First of the Fallen and all that still. And so, yeah, it was kind of like, okay, I get, because part of her revenge is she, like, Danny's away on, like, an assignment. She comes home. John, she walks into the room. John is in bed naked, as usual. He sleeps naked. And next to him is a naked woman, and it's Ellie. But, Danny doesn't know who she is. She's just like, oh my God, John fucked another woman while I was gone for 2 days.
That was cold-blooded, man. I mean, the fact that, she has those the sigils that he carved into her back, so she can't harm him directly. But I have to give her credit for being really damn conniving with both using Gavin and something as simple as literally lying down with him to suggest like a nightmare scenario for Danny. Like that was like god tier level like evil for her to be able to hurt him without hurting him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's like probably the most evil thing you could do besides actually fucking him is, you know, he doesn't even get the satisfaction of that. He just is sleeping and he wakes up to his girlfriend screaming at him and a naked lady in the bed next to him. Yeah. He's like, what the fuck's going on?
Like that was, oh man, I give her serious props for being incredibly creative in finding ways to just completely destroy him without landing a single blow. You know, she can't physically attack him. She probably can't even really like mess with him like through her mind or her wiles or whatever. But to be able to mess with everyone else around him, yeah, that was devious. I almost want to applaud her for it if she weren't so dang evil.
Yeah, for sure. It is quite sinister what she does. And then she like, you know, when we see like Muppet getting hit on his motorcycle and that starts like the whole friend group hating John because they think it's his fault. And then everybody turns on him and it's like, yeah, it's unlike Garth Ennis though. I don't know what's worse. What's worse to you? If all your friends die because of your actions, or if all of your friends leave you thinking that you're an asshole because you did the right thing or because you weren't doing the wrong thing.
Well, there's still a possibility of correcting a wrong if they're all still alive. So that leaves the window open for them to come back, as opposed to if they're all dead, then they're just dead. So I would say that this was a much tamer way to do it, considering nobody actually died. They all just sort of were like, you know, fuck you, John, and like peaced out. So it was surprising that nobody actually died. She didn't somehow she didn't get to the point of actually like knocking them off like one by one. Mostly it was just like, I'm going to like trick them all into thinking that John is horrible and you know, hates them all, or is purposefully or even not purposefully, but just, you know, not caring that he's messing them all up. So it was really sneaky, and kudos to her for sure for coming up with such a long sort of a slow burn plan, because I don't know how long she had to be working on Gavin, but she is really good at playing the long game.
Yeah, I mean, she's a succubus. That makes sense. I feel like she, you know, needs to work her magic and whatnot.
She has nothing but time.
Yeah, one thing I like is this Ellie has been a character for like 80 issues now almost. And so it was nice to see her like different sides of her, right? You see her as his friend, even though she's a demon. Then you see her get scorned. Then you see her come back, you know, like and get back at him. So I like that a lot. And then what did you think of her being the like big bad of this last story arc?
It was a great surprise. I really enjoyed her arc just in general as a character because of the ups and downs she went through. You know, she had some serious highs where everything was amazing. She had like the lowest of lows that we found out, you know, with her angel boyfriend. I loved her as a character, as evil as she ended up being, and it was kind of sad to see how it ended for her. I was a little bummed.
Yeah, well, I mean, technically, we don't see her die. We don't see a body or anything. She just gets sent to the deepest parts of hell or whatever. So, I mean, she could technically not be gone. I
suppose, but I feel like that was sort of like an end for her, and it did make me sad to see a character that I was really grooving with, enjoying, you know, reading about, sort of come to such a grisly end of like, oh man, she worked so hard to like stay out of his clutches, and of course you cross John, he's gonna get you back. So
yeah, and the funny thing, like the way it's like, oh, she did all the stuff for John in the Garth Ennis run so that he would do the sigils on her so she could hide from the First of the Fallen, and then, you know, it all comes into a head here where like after she fucks John over, he just totally gives her up because he knows where she has to stay. And I love how the First of the Fallen comes to her as her boyfriend, her angel boyfriend, is like, I'm here, babe. I'm back.
Oh, dude, that was like, I thought she was sinister. That is like straight up probably one of the worst things that he has done. And he's done a lot of horrible things. But in that moment, even I was like, oh, like me. Oh, man, he totally got me with that. I was flabbergasted, I will say.
Yeah, I thought it was like super evil, like way to get at her. Yeah, because he could have just showed up and like, bitch, you're in the fire or whatever. But like the fact that he comes and he's like, hey, it's me.
But no. Oh, man. Knife to her heart, man. Oh, geez. That was that was evil. That was truly evil.
Yeah, I loved it. Oh, one thing that was weird, I think I mentioned it in the when I read it. It's not big enough to really matter that much, but like in the Danny family story arc, like the First of the Fallen is black in that, and that was confusing to me. Like I'm like, wait, who is this? Because
So is it really him, do you think,
yeah,
now that you've sort of given it another look through? It
totally
really is him.
It totally is him.
That is so weird.
He just decided to be black for that arc.
Well, I mean, he is his own being, so I guess he can be whoever he wants to be, right?
Right, but it was confusing, like, as the reader, because I was like, I mean, it kind of looks like him, but he's black. So who is this guy? And then I was like, oh, it's him.
It's weird. It's weird.
I mentioned it because it was just confusing as I was reading it to you. Yeah, it was like, okay, all right, I guess we're doing that. Interesting call. We're gonna go with that. All right, because it's not like he needed to like walk around and like blend in with anybody. It was just like,
right. It's like he did it specifically to almost go John and be like, "Yep, I fit in more than you do here."
Maybe, or just like, I'm gonna fuck with John and be black now, because John's hanging out with black family. Like that's I don't know why, but it was funny. You can definitely see it in like in the way you said, like a goading thing. But there's never like explicitly stated or anything. Like John never says like, what the fuck? Like, why do you look like that?
Yeah.
Wouldn't
that have been funny though? That totally seems like something John would say.
Yeah, it does. Maybe a missed opportunity, or maybe it was thought better of. Maybe there was like something mentioned about it, and then like the editor was like, nah, let's not say that.
They just don't need to get into it. This is just its own thing.
It's hard to know because it's 1996, so I don't know if they would care or not,
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, just a funny, like, just want to mention that because we kind of went over that, or kind of glazed over that. But one thing I did want to ask is, so once Danny leaves and she's gone from the story for the most part, I mean, they have one little makeup at the end where, not makeup, but meet up at the end where she's like, why'd you do it, John? Or what, trying to like reach out to him a bit. And then he has to spurn her because he's like, I'm no good for anybody. I got to be a loner. So like, she'll just get hurt if she's with me. And so, he basically kind of like tells her in so many words, like, I don't want to be with you for your own. Well, he doesn't tell her for her own good, but
it was inevitable.
Yeah, it's inevitable. Are you sad she's gone? Did you want her to continue being his girlfriend?
I really don't think there was any way to come back from that, because he either has to lie and say, yes, he did sleep with her while she was gone, but baby, I'll never do it again, I promise. Or he has to tell her the truth, in which case she'll just think he's crazy and lying. So I really didn't see any way for him to explain the situation in a way that would, one, make sense, or two, not make him out to be, either crazy or an asshole. So
do you think she doesn't know anything about John magic wise?
I feel like she, not as much as Kit. Like Kit was always in that stuff, Well,
she knew because she was like, I don't want any of it in our house,
Right. So she was always like, and anytime it did come up, she was just like, John, why are you bringing this shit home? But I feel like Danny didn't really no, like, because he never told her about the. I mean, yeah, she was just like, don't do anything to her, the ex that was like stalking her. But I think it was more of like a don't go out there and fight him as opposed to don't magic him. So, and then he sort of
But you forget that she was kidnapped by like fucking what's his name, Merlin,
Merlin.
and like
But
that
even that
whole.
seemed to be like a, like it seemed to be like when Merlin was done with them and they all woke up, it was more of like a, they don't remember why they were kidnapped or who kidnapped them. It was more of just like a, they probably thought it was gang related. I mean, remember when what's his name was talking about the bad meat and he was just like, oh yeah, he joked about it being someone's head, but obviously it was just spoiled meat. So I feel like a lot of them were sort of like, at least the ones who don't have any sort of magic to them, kind of brush it off or either have been sort of magic to not see the magic.
Oh, that's a good point. I didn't think about that. I just assumed like, oh yeah, she saw fucking the Knights of the Round Table and magic shit happening. Sure, she knows that about that. But now that you say that, yeah, they never really had her witness any magic happening. She was like knocked out on the cross when Merlin had her, and then like yeah, there's never any other time where you ever see her like witness anything magical, really. So I guess that explains, yeah, because I that was my next question was like, do you think she should have given John like let him explain or given him a second chance or whatever? Because I just assumed, yeah, she knew about his magic stuff. But yeah, that would be really hard to explain.
Yeah, I think he was like, you know what? There's really no good way for this to turn out. I either try to explain it or I try to explain it in a way that she would understand what it is, which is I cheated on her. And I don't think he wanted to lie and say he cheated on her. I don't think he wanted to explain the truth of everything he would have to explain to show her that this was all a mistake. And he's like, well, and it'll probably get worse. So at this point, she has a reason to leave me. Just let her go. It sucks because he seemed to really like her. I mean, he met her family and they were really building to something. But the fact that this happened the way it did, I mean, Ellie pretty much found the best way to break them up. And I don't think that there was a way to come back from that didn't hurt both of them in either him having to show her the world he lives in or him having to just take it as like, yeah, I'm a cheater. This is what I do. So, if you come back, it might happen again or whatever. So I don't know. Or it'll never happen again, I swear, but something else will happen. So yeah.
Yeah, what did you think of their relationship overall, like in comparison to his other loves? You got Marge from the first run and Zed, and then you have Kit. So how does Danny stack up against those?
She was a lot more innocent, I feel, than the others who, at least even if they didn't know well, no, actually, most of them knew more about his magical side. I think Danny was the first one who came into it sort of innocently as just being like, so you're a shyster, you do like woo, you do like magic stuff, right? But not really seeing the full extent of him as like, the magus and everything.
Yeah,
so
magic. He does magic like a mentalist does magic or something. He can maybe hypnotize you, but in a magic way.
yeah, that's what she was thinking. Cause like, oh, you got those people at the orgy to see stuff, huh? Like, how'd you do that? Like, where's the curtain? Like, draw back the curtain. Tell me how you did it. So yeah, I think she was the most innocent of anyone he's ever been with that we know of. And I thought he probably liked that as sort of a fresh start too, of being like, she's separate from the magic-y stuff I have to deal with on a day-to-day basis that sucks usually. So I think that might have been why he was so into her, willing to meet her family and just be like, maybe I could be a normal guy. But of course he can't. He never can.
Yeah. I like her a lot too. I kind of feel like they didn't get to develop too much in this run, especially not as much as like Kit. Obviously, Kit is kind of the.
Oh yeah, I mean, she still has the crown, I think, as far as his his real love. I still want to think that she would have been the one, but I think Danny was
At Hellblazer 300. They get married.
I know, right? Oh,
That doesn't.
she was
happen.
the
I'm not-
lowest to his Clark.
I'm not spoiling it. I'm not.
Okay. I had a feeling that was just a fanfic idea.
Yeah, I think to me they didn't get quite the development. Although I think she's more developed than like Marge or Zed, because those kind of like Marge especially was just kind of like a comfort to him, but I don't think they had like a real relationship where like he wanted to be going out with her or something.
Yeah, I agree with that. He was more using her than anything.
They're like friends with benefits more or something.
Yeah.
And then Zed was like on her own path. She was too independent for John. Like she would not be tied down even if he was like let's make this thing official, babe. She'd be like, no, I'm doing my own like priestess thing. Like you can join in the
She's
ritual.
too much like him.
Yeah, pretty much. She is alone. Wolfess. But yeah, so I think Danny is kind of like as far as the people we get to meet and like the relationships they have with John is like the second place to me. But I feel like I wish she had a little bit more growth with John, or we got to see her more with John specifically. And I think maybe that's why he peppered in these couple issues, like the one where she's on her period, that one, or like the family arc. It's like, okay, we're trying to build up that they have a good relationship or that this is their relationship, but it was just a little bit too not as much as I would have liked before the ending that we got. Because Kit has so much like she's with John through a lot of it. Like they would cut to her and John just hanging out at the house and seeing what they're doing and like, you know, talking about stuff. And you really got to like feel the relationship more, I think. But yeah, I like Danny though. I think she's good. I kind of hope, I don't know if she ever comes back, but it would be cool if she does come back at some point. Not maybe as his, you know, love interest, but as a side character or whatever.
That would be nice. Sort of like a catch up, run into each other sometime later. How are you doing?
You could totally do it because she's a reporter, so she could just be following up on a story, and John happens to be also following up on this.
Oh yeah, that
story.
would be fun.
Yeah, just like a one shot or something would be fun. One thing I mentioned that I love about this run specifically is that Jenkins really likes to reference the stuff that he's already set up. Like he did a really good job of setting up things like Boar and what he did with Ellie and John and the Fox card thing with the dude sitting in the woods that ended up being God. like that kind of stuff, calling back to his own setups, and then also calling back to things that happened in the Warren Ellis run, or not the Garth Ennis run, and even Jamie Delano's run. Like, what do you think of callbacks like that? Because we haven't really had anybody do too much of that so far. He is only the third writer, but did you like it when writers do that?
Well, I love that stuff. It's not even, I mean, it's almost like Easter eggs, but not really hidden. It's like little surprises where it's like, hey, you remember this? Or, hey, you remember that thing that happened? And if you don't, then you're like, oh, I guess I got to go, read and find out when that happened and where that happened.
Right. I wish they did like little editor's notes, like this happened. And...
yeah, the little box that they used to do, like with the asterisks, like for this, there, go to issue. I used to love those.
I love those things. I hate that they don't do them anymore.
I know, it's so sad.
I mean, Hellblazer's just like read Hellblazer.
Figure it out yourself. We're not holding your hand.
Go find the back issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the things I love about comics is, and especially like a good writer, that like Jenkins established his own thing and was still able to tie very closely into what Garth Ennis had done using Ellie and whatnot. And then also even things that, were established with Delano's run when it's like, oh, we're kind of calling back to ley lines and things like that. It's just like he's using the world that was built and not just referencing those and redoing them or something, He's like, oh yeah, you established ley lines, let me use them, but in this way or whatever,
I think it's great. I love when they can take something that's come before and spin it in a new way without disregarding the source material, unless there's a really good reason to do that, like a complete reboot of, oh, you thought this, well, this is actually the how and the why. Sometimes that's really cool too, like finding out about John's father and how, like, we've always believed that John killed his mom, but then it turns out it was his dad the whole time who pushed her, to get a late term abortion, and like that was like messed up. So things like that where you're like, this is what the established belief is, I'm going to turn it on its head. but then also doing the homages of like this is what happened and that's why this is happening too because of that. So I love when they can find creative ways to use what's come before in a new way and either change it dramatically or stay the same but let it grow.
Yeah, I agree fully with that. And I think to me, that's what really strengthens Jenkins' run overall. We were kind of talking about this, but his run really seems quick when I think back on it. Like, oh, this happened, and then
Yeah, it
that happened, and that
does.
happened, and then it's done. Like, it just moves. And it kind of feels like it didn't have enough time to breathe a little bit, but it was the same length as Garth Ennis and Jamie Delano's. I mean,
Did
sorry,
he
yeah,
have more one shots? Maybe is that why it seems
definitely
a
that.
little
He
choppier?
definitely had more one shots than trying to think. Delano had some one shots, but not as much as Jenkins had.
Because I feel like that's what sort of moves it along faster is when you have those punchy little one shots in between the arcs instead of like long, long arc, one shot, long, long arc, one shot, maybe a twofer, but then another long arc. So, but then if you have like arc, punchy, punchy, arc, punchy, punchy, it's it I think it makes it have more life to it, and then it also makes you feel like it's moving so fast, and then oh no, it's over. But it still felt like a great
Yeah, because you only remember the big arcs, right? Like,
right, and then you forget about the little things.
yeah, you're never like, oh, that one issue and then that one issue. You're like, no, that story arc where this happened was pretty fucking cool. Then this happened, and then there was only two more big arcs, and then it ends. Like, so yeah, I guess that's why it flows. But what do you think overall as the run? Do you like one? Did you like it overall? And then two, do you think it? How do you think it compares to the other two that we've read?
Oh, I can't speak to the comparison. I have a hard time looking at the big picture, I'll be honest.
Well, enjoyableness, like what did you like it more than Garth Ennis or Jamie Delano or just the same or
I feel like this one had a lot of satisfaction after the fact. There were a lot of moments where the confusion was in the first reading of like, why is this happening? I don't understand this. Like, and then with the big reveal, you'd be like, oh, and then upon the second read, you're like, oh, I see the breadcrumbs that were being laid down. I feel like so his his way of storytelling is almost better the second time around as opposed to the first time, whereas previous arcs have been like right from the beginning, you're like, oh yes, like I'm like really into this story, I'm invested in the story. And then the second time it does get better, but it's still like his just feels like for a first timer, you have to just be willing to sit with this and just go with it until the ending. And then when you go back, oh, there it all is.
yeah, yeah, that's exactly how I feel about his writing. But it's obviously like his style because he does it so often.
Yeah.
Very rarely do you get a straightforward like I think the Critical Mass and maybe the Australia one. But even that one was kind of like, what's going on? Like, why is he in Australia and what's going on with this? But like, yeah, the Critical Mass storyline, which is the one with Boar and, Cider getting possessed. That is the most straightforward arc. At least it has like the most like, oh, we give you a problem. Now we know that John is on the journey to solve it. He does these things and then does solve it. Like it's pretty straightforward in like a normal path. But yeah, like you were saying, a lot of his stories, I'm like, what does this issue mean? Like, what's going on here? And then eventually the little pieces are revealed that fill in the gaps. And then by the end of it, you're like, wow, that was really cool. But the confusion was still there at the beginning sometimes. And it also depends, like with this last arc, the 8 issues, part 1 and part 2, it was like some of the gaps I still had because I forgot like it was just confusion is what I remembered. I didn't remember like the piece that I was supposed to plug in when I found it out. So like some of that stuff only came to mind where I was like, oh, that's what was going on. Like the whole like, oh, the reason why you would have him go to Danny's family and like go for Thanksgiving is because that shows their relationship building. But it's not explicitly stated. And then only after the fact when we're talking about it was I like, oh yeah, like that's why he did that. Like you said, a second reading or even a third reading sometimes are needed to really fully grasp what Jenkins was doing. And I don't know if that's a bug or a feature. What do you think?
I mean, it sort of depends on the sort of reader or uh, person you are and where your satisfaction lies. Do you enjoy the confusion of it, the not knowing? And then if that's your taste, then this arc was probably, or, his run was probably like awesome in that sort of mysterious feel of like, I don't know what's going on exactly, but I'm totally here for it. Or do you prefer sort of like maybe not like a monster of the week feel, but a more straightforward like storyline of like this is what's happening, like, and we're just gonna follow him through his journey, like straight up quest style. Um, I don't know. I'm kind of getting more into sort of the mystery stories, so it's growing on me. The not knowing, the confusion, the just being ready and waiting and prepared to like what is the big reveal? Like when are you gonna give me the full story? So it's still not my favorite, but it's growing on me slowly.
It is different, and also it grew on you just in time for the run to finish.
I know. Oh, now we got to start all over again and figure out what this new version's gonna be.
Yeah, I do appreciate it because it is different, and he has a style that I can't say any other writer. I mean, it is closer to Jamie Delano, where he would introduce things that I'm like, what the fuck is going on, and then would finish it off. And then when you're done with that, you're like, oh wow, that was what happened. But initially, sometimes in Jamie Delano's arcs, I'd be like, what? I specifically remember like the boy, the like John as a kid finding that rock that's like the heart or whatever. And I was like,
Oh yeah, that
what
was
the
really
fuck is this issue about? And then it ended up tying into a whole thing, right? But like until the dead boy's heart, that's what that issue's called. But yeah, like stuff like that. Or there was that one issue where like John, it's the future, and John sees like how the world is flooded and he's by
Oh
himself.
yeah, that one too.
They don't explain it though. No explanation that this is connected to anything. It feels like a one shot, but then by the like end of that section, it's like, oh, this is all part of this one story arc. Oh, okay. Like I feel like Jenkins was. I don't know if that's how he normally writes, because I've read some of his other stuff and I've never felt like that. So maybe he was specifically trying to channel Jamie Delano or something in his storytelling.
That's a good thought, though. Maybe he's trying to bring it around from like, uh, maybe if it's an homage or just mixing it up from the way it was done before. So I don't know. It was fun. It was weird, but it was still fun. And I think it's really great if you can get more out of it a second time around or a third time. It's like watching a movie you've seen before and suddenly noticing something. You're like, wow, I never noticed that before. Like, how did I miss that?
Yeah, that's true. It's like an Easter egg that you get to give yourself because you were too blind or stupid to get it the first time.
Or it just didn't register.
Exactly, that too. Yeah. So, did you have a favorite arc overall of his run?
I do think, like I said, I'm still trying to get my brain into enjoying sort of mystery mode. So I think Boar's initial introduction was probably my favorite
Yeah, the Purple
storyline, just
Mask one.
because, yeah, the ending was just so awesome. Like you had no idea where that story was going, and I was like, I know John's gonna get out of this. The story continues, like that's the spoiler, is that he's gonna pull something out of his hat because there's 300 episodes. He literally can't die here. Or he can't go to hell. I know the whole comic's called Hellblazer, but he can't continue to do his job from hell, can he? Like,
Or maybe he can.
so yeah, no, like I didn't know like what was going to happen to his character. So I was really intrigued by what he was able to do and how they figured that out. Because I was like, what is going to happen after this? Like, what are the repercussions of this decision he's made? So I thought that was great. Like yeah, that one was super fun.
I'm gonna say I don't have a favorite arc, but I have like a favorite continue thread storyline where it's like I love the Ellie and him sleeping together, and then the whole ending with her getting revenge on him. I like those two things together as like a one whole arc. I think that's fun and an interesting callback to everything that happened in Garth Ennis' stuff too. So yeah. Was there Anything I missed overall on the run that you wanted to talk about?
I think that we sort of answered all the questions and thoughts that I had. Although it was kind of weird for them to just sort of like throw God in there for no reason.
That's what I was going to bring up. I was about to say God. We didn't talk about God.
Like I totally forgot about God. Like
I love and also think it's kind of a cheat how John is like, you better fix this. And God's like, I don't do what you tell me to do. And he's like, well, if you don't, I'm going to end up in hell. And you know me, I'm going to run that whole thing. And you know me, I am a fucking asshole who's never going to give up and is going to win. So if you want that adversary, be my guest and don't help me. And then God's like, never mind, I'm helping you. Like, like
it's a bit of a Deus Ex Machina, I think.
it is. It is. I do like that he introduced that character so early on in the run. That
is true.
Was he planning this all along, or was it like
I completely forgot about him. Like I was like, Tom, who the hell is Tom? When did we meet a Tom? Like it's like, oh, old dude I'd completely forgotten about his character.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, like, did he mean for that to be the end always, or did he just, oh yeah, I'm going to use this character and just say that he was God at the end, you know? I don't know, but
you got me. I think either way could work, honestly.
It works. It is like, it's satisfying, but it is also like all right, like I'll give that to you kind of thing.
Oh my gosh, I just thought of something. They should have named him Godfrey.
Right, there you go. Yeah, that might have been too on the nose. John would have figured that out before. But yeah, so okay, that was the only thing we missed. We didn't talk about. But yeah, so now that we're done with Paul Jenkins' run, we got a special 6-issue single arc from Garth Ennis between the next guy who takes over. And so are you excited to hear that Garth Ennis will return?
I'm excited. I'm curious what totally messed up things he's going to introduce us to that he didn't get the chance to before.
Yeah, it's like what did he feel the need to tell?
Like, where are you taking us now? How are you gonna hurt my feelings this time?
Yes, I have read it already, so I'm very excited to have you hear it. So I'm
excited.
Yeah, can't wait to talk to you or with you about it. So was there anything you wanted to ask before we go?
Did you have a favorite cover this time? There weren't any that really stood out to me, so I'm curious. Do you have any feelings?
My favorite cover, I had two that I liked, but one kind of stands out more. It is the one where Michelle is giving birth to her baby, and then in the background in the heart monitor, you see the grandma's face. So it's just like creepy. At first, you're just like, oh, it's a regular cover, but then you see the grandma's face looking at them, and you're like, ugh. The fuck? Like, so I like that one, and then I also like the one after that, the Hindenburg cover where John is literally putting his cigarette out on the Hindenburg, and it looks like he's started the fire.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah. Did you have one?
I did, although I will say something funny about that, the Life and Death and Taxis cover with the baby that she's giving birth. The grandma's face in the monitor totally reminded me of the Captain America movie where you had, or maybe, no, it was number 2. I think it was the second Captain America movie in find out that that German professor is actually in the computers in the, and his face is all green and electric and stuff. And that totally made me think of that. So that was just funny to me. But actually, my favorite cover was actually the last one for Up the Down Staircase where John's being chased by weird shapes and colors and stuff, because I loved that contrast of him being realistically drawn and the white background with these just abstract shapes and colors chasing after him. It made me think of the Fantasia 2000, one of the first songs that they animate is these pretty bird shapes that are flying around, and then you have the evil bird shapes chasing them, but they do such a really cool job with geometric shapes and colors in that short, and the weird bird things in that reminded me of that. So I just thought it was really pretty and striking, and that's just a really good composition of that. Him being so realistically drawn, and then the rest of the background was just whited out with these dramatic shapes and colors and stuff. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, that is a good one. To me, I think because it's so stark, I was just like, okay, well, it's John running, whatever. Like,
I liked the fact that it isn't like an oversaturated oil painting with like, because the fire ones. The fire ones are also really cool. I like that they're each wearing his coat and sort of like becoming like their version of him wearing his coat. I loved the fact that the four of those issues have that sort of theme to them. You got Ellie wearing the coat, you've got the first wearing the coat, and then he's wearing the coat at the end. And I thought that was cool, like all four of those, but the strikingness of 124 was just really cool. And I'm like, oh, I know I normally like all the demony ones and stuff, but this one just is really pretty to me, and I like that.
yeah, I take it back. I like the one with Ellie because she's naked under the coat and you can see her boobs.
That would be my second choice as well. That's because what's under that trench coat?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah. All right. Well, is there anything else you wanted to ask?
No, I think we're good. We covered it. I'm so excited to get into the next arc and see what horrible things he has planned for John.
Yeah, so I should say the next arc is 6 issues, so that'll be 128 or 129 to whatever. What is it? 135? Yeah, 135. I think.
Cool beans.
I always
I'm
forget because
excited.
you count in the comics. You actually count the first issue. You don't skip the first issue like when you're counting numbers. So it'd be like 129, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34. Yeah, it'll be 34. 129 to 134. That'll be the issues we cover. So that'll be a quicker one because it's just one arc. But it's just Garth Ennis. So.
And he deserves his own little chat. So
Hell yeah,
our own little talk about him.
But with that, I guess we will see you guys on the next one.
See you later.
Bye.